Now, the men oftentimes are the ones that built the canoes, but they were also the ones that did a lot of the hunting. And this didn't mean that a woman couldn't go hunting, but it's not very safe hunting a bear out in the woods with a baby on your back. The guys, they felt very comfortable. This was their place. They had a hunting territory that was 20, 40 miles wide. They would hunt all over. And to help them out, what you might do is, well, you could use a little bit of a disguise. To get up nice and close to the animals, you might do what he has. Have an animal skin, a fur. This is a wolf skin. Wolves used to be here in New Jersey, and they were good hunters. When an old wolf died, instead of wasting his fur, you might actually use it. You could actually put this on your head, and you would look a lot more like an animal. You can get up nice and close enough to find out what an animal ate, where it lived, and of course to get a good shot. But of course, they didn't have guns like our hunters do today. They had to use the bow and arrows. Bows were about as tall as you were. Very strong, with very strong strings, and they were a deadly weapon when you put them together with an arrow. Now, arrows, well, you could use them for many different things. There were arrows that were very, very sharp, that were used, of course, for hunting deer and bear. There were some that were very long, like this. They were special ones that you could put together to go hunting for fish. Now, even to knock out a bird. Say you didn't want to get it all bloodied, or you might just want to get some feathers. It's a blunt tip, and you can actually knock a bird out with them. But these are the tools that they used. And you might want to carry them in a quiver such as this. This is a bobcat. Bobcats were great hunters. And once an old bobcat died, you could use his fur as a quiver. You had the same hunting spirit as that bobcat did. So this is what they would do. You would go out, and they felt very at home here. They would catch many kinds of animal, but the main one was deer. They would use it almost every day, and for clothing, for tools, all kinds of things. But don't forget, there were bear, turkeys, raccoons, many, many, many different kinds of animals. And to catch them, they used more than just bows and arrows. Sometimes you might want to use a snare or a trap. Here you can see a simple snare. It's to catch turkeys. Turkeys have great eyesight, and they can see you from far across the field. To get up close is a bit of a challenge. So you might just want to set a trap. They like corn. You would simply bring this down. There's a little trigger mechanism with a loop. They'll pull on that corn, the loop would get them, and of course then they can't get away from you. But the Native Americans are smart people. Even better than that, they would watch the turkeys. They would watch animals and see, well, what they did. A turkey every night would go to sleep. It would roost in the same tree. All you had to do is find out where that tree was and wait there. Instead of you going after the turkey will come right to you. And as it's up in the trees, you just take your bow and arrow and you shoot it. So they had many different ways of catching animals. But traps, that was a nice way. You could just set them all over, and every day you would check them and see what you got. Now there was one very special kind of a trap, kind of deadly, but I'd like you to see it. It's called a deadfall, to catch bears. This is a deadfall. It's actually just a lot of heavy, heavy trees, and they're supported by a little trigger mechanism. A bear would come up, and it would actually smell the meat that they have here, and it would tug on this branch, and this whole thing would just come down and collapse and usually kill the bear. But it was quite effective. But it was a lot safer than actually trying to go and shoot a bear by yourself. Now, there were important things that had to be taken care of. You had to give thanks to many of the Manito, the spirits, and the gods themselves, and the great creator, Kishe-la-Mokang. So during the year, at certain times, when your corn was ready, you'd have the green corn ceremony, or the harvest festival, or a young boy, when he shot his first buck, might actually thank and offer that buck back to the great spirit again. These things had to be taken care of, because it was the spirits that created this whole thing. Kishe-la-Mokang, the great creator, who lives up on the 12th in the highest heaven, he made everything. His name actually means he who creates us with his thoughts. But he then stepped back and he let the lesser gods actually run the world. You might know some of them, like the sun and the sister, the night sun, and the four winds. And there was Mother Earth and Mother Corn, all very important to them. And they had to be taken care of. They actually had to be, in a sense, danced to and praised. Now, what you see here is an outline of a ceremony they had called their big house. In the fall of the year, they would celebrate this big house and give thanks to the Great Spirit and all the lesser manitudes that took care of things. Now, the big house is actually symbolic of this big house. You see, Kishe Lamokong lived up on the 12th and highest heaven, but his staff reached all the way down to earth. And there were the lesser gods around the outside, like we talked about earlier. And so people would come here in the fall and have a ceremony where they would dance and they would sing and just remember who gave them all of these things. But don't forget about the Mising, a very important god, especially when it came time to hunting. Yeah, he was out in the woods. That was his realm out there. Usually you would see him riding on the back of a deer, herding the deer and taking good care of them, making sure the animals were all right. But he was also the one that might put a deer or an animal in front of a hunter to shoot. So it was this time he would show up at some of these ceremonies, especially in the fall, where people would there was actually a person that would, in a sense, he would get dressed up like the Mising. He was the impersonator of the Mising. His name was Mising Holy Khan, and he had a bearskin outfit with a red and black mask and a snapping turtle rattle. And he would come and he wouldn't sing, he would make no noise, he couldn't actually speak. He would shake a rattle and he would dance around the people and they would give him presents. But it was very important to keep these traditions up or else there could be problems later on.